Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fast Intentions, episode number 9. I am your host, Nathan, alongside my co-host, my father, Todd. Back in the actual studio this time, not inside the Toyota, which I'm now finding out wasn't a Land Rover, so now it's kind of throwing me in for a loop.
Maybe it was a Land Cruiser.
Okay, because I called it the Land Rover on the Twitter description. Now we're lying to people, dude.
Well, not intentionally. We would never
not fast intentionally.
We would never
It's generational.
We would never intentionally lie to people. Accidentally, yes, but not
fast
intentionally.
Intentionally lie to people. You have to say it like that to get the point across.
I'll leave that to you.
Well, okay. Well, besides the fact we're back here with episode 9, feels good to actually be sitting down at the desk, not kind of cramped up in the car with the car with the phone in between us. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, chilling. Want to watch some football today?
Yeah.
We saw how much Russell Wilson sucks.
I believe he's your number 8 rated top 10 quarterback.
He was my number 8 rated quarterback going into the season.
Oh.
So if it was not list, he'd be negative 26.
Well, there's only 32 teams, so that's pretty rough.
Well, I was telling them if the Broncos don't do nothing next year or in any of these 5 years, that'll go down as one of the worst trades. And well, even then, the Seahawks are playing really good too. So the Broncos are crappy. That's just better picks for them.
Yeah, I been very impressed with Geno Smith, even though I've never really bought into Geno Smith because he just hasn't shown the consistency throughout his career to be a every week starter. But he's had a couple rough weeks here and there, but overall he's actually done pretty well.
Well, he was in the MVP conversation for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, what did Steve say at lunch? He said he had potential. He got hurt, and then he went back into backup Quarterville land, or whatever he said. Backup quarter land. So, yeah, it's nice to see Geno Smith doing well. Oh, and then people always point out those like NFL memes had a tweet that said, imagine being excited for the season. This is your starting quarterback, and there's a photo of Geno Smith in the Seahawks uniform at the beginning of the year. It kind of makes him look stupid now for that.
Well,
anyways, we're back. Episode 9.
Back in Omaha.
Yeah, we got breaking news. It's not breaking news anymore, but the main news is that Nebraska finally has a new coach.
They have a new ruler.
There you go, new ruler, Huler. And Matt Rhule is hired as the next coach of Nebraska football.
The 31st coach in Nebraska football history,
I didn't know what number he was, but
yeah,
31st.
Yeah, so we'll dig into that. But before we get started, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, how was my Thanksgiving?
Yeah,
wasn't too bad. Sorry, I forgot you had a topic you wanted to talk about first. That's my fault. I wouldn't have gone straight into that.
No, that's fine.
It wasn't too bad. We always go to grandma's.
Mm-hmm.
We usually get KFC. And I told Mom beforehand, did you call KFC? You want to call, put the order in ahead of time? Call and make sure to open? Oh, no, I didn't call. They never answered their phone. We'll just go. Got there, they're closed. Okay, well, there's a Popeyes. We'll drive to Popeyes. Popeyes closed. And Mom goes, well, do you know any good chicken places? I'm like, not really off the top of my head.
That are open on Thanksgiving.
Raising Cane's was closed, so we can't go there. I go, we should just go to McDonald's. So we went and got 50 McNuggets. Like 3 large fries and 2 McChickens for Andrew. And then we went back and Andrew,
your uncle.
Yeah, Andrew's my uncle. He was a little peeved that we didn't have KFC. But he ate the nuggets just fine. And then he spent the night last night at our house, and he had McDonald's again.
Did he have barbecue sauce?
Barbecue sauce? I don't know.
On his nuggets?
No, we just got a variety. And the mom ordering in the drive-thru is very cute.
Look at that. We're gonna have nuggets. We're gonna talk about nuggets to open the show and nuggets to end the show.
Oh, there you go.
Nugget bookends.
Yeah, so we had the McDonald's. It was fun, and then we had to play ping pong with Andrew for a few hours. Greg, the cousins that live in Missouri came in, so we got to see them too. So that was fun.
Very good.
And then play ping pong, play some games, ate some pumpkin pie, and went to your house, ate some apple pie. And some pumpkin stuff, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott threw 2 touchdowns to Dalton Schultz for my fantasy team, so that helped.
Well, that's important.
Dalvin Cook didn't do shit.
That's
neither did Ramondre Stevenson, because all he do is get down to the red zone, kick a field goal to Nick Folk. He's going to be my first-round pick next year.
I'll be sure to remind you of that when your turn comes next year.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I like Thanksgiving. I'm not the biggest fan of the food. And, I don't want to get too social issue about it, but I'm not the biggest Thanksgiving guy.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's the food's the basis of it, but it's supposed to be about spending time with your family and just being thankful that they're there with you and you get to spend that quality time with them.
No,
Hopefully,
the general
and
purpose
interact with them. And
The general purpose of it's a good idea. It's the whole, Native American, history of all that. It's not really the best for, United States.
Supposedly the Pilgrims were thankful, for their help to get their food supply started. And, I mean, they learned a lot from the Native Americans.
And they had a feast.
How to grow food and what food they could grow, because the stuff they were trying to grow wasn't growing because the land wasn't right for it. And
no, I know the history.
what have you. So, yeah.
I think that stuff's all factual, too.
Yeah.
I think it's just, you know what I'm talking about.
Well, sure.
So, but, it is nice to see the family and stuff, so.
Well, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food? Do you have one that strikes you? Is it the turkey? Is there a side dish? Is it the pumpkin pie, which I know you're a big fan of?
Yeah, it's the pumpkin pie.
It's pumpkin pie?
Yeah.
With whipped cream or ice cream?
I usually put whipped cream on it, but ice cream's pretty good with it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think Grandma had any ice cream for it, so I kind of had to use just whipped cream. And I put too much on it, because, I tried to make it all fancy, and I realized I was just eating a lot of cream.
Yeah.
So I put too much.
My philosophy on whipped cream versus ice cream, I like ice cream with hot, like a hot dessert where I heat it up.
Hot apple pie and ice cream. Ooh.
Yeah, and then if it's like whipped cream, then I put it like on something that's like room temperature or what have you. So,
do you like white meat or dark meat better?
I like light.
See, I feel like I usually eat white meat, but I think we just have white meat at Grandma's house now. So,
well, I'm sure there's the dark. She probably just doesn't put it out. I
yeah.
mean, I've. It's not like I haven't had it. I mean, it's not my thing.
I haven't had it since I was like a kid.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of went through the notion that I didn't like it. I just ate the white one. But even then, turkey's all right. It's not my favorite. Sometimes it's just dry. I don't really care for it.
Well, yeah, a lot of young kids, you ask them to try something. They say, well, I don't like it. Well, how do you know? Have you ever tried it? No, I just know I don't like it. So
see, and then that kind of carries over to my adulthood. And then I try it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know why I never liked this.
Yeah, it can.
So.
Well, mine, thanks for asking, is the sweet potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
I love my sweet potatoes, and that's why I torture myself every year and make my own. I have a recipe I use, and, I get up and I boil the sweet potatoes and then have to get them mashed and cut up. And for some reason, the sweet potatoes just weren't softening up enough when I was boiling them. And I boiled them whole. I probably should have cut them up and diced them or, quartered them or whatever. And they probably would have boiled better. But then I have to take the skin off. So then to mash them, I was like using my fork, kind of break them apart. And then I, used the beaters and kind of whipped them up. So I finally got everything together, got it put in the oven, and I heard beep, 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 beep. That was the microwave. If I leave something in the microwave too long, it keeps beeping every once in a while to remind me. Well, I'd put the butter in there to melt, and I thought, oh, crap, I forgot to put the butter in there. So I pulled it out, and all I did was I just opened the stove, and it was in a measuring cup, so I just poured it all over the top of the sweet potatoes. And I talked to my girlfriend and my aunt even, and they both said it should be all right. And it turned out all right, but for a couple of moments I was panicking. I thought, man, I just went through all that work, and I forgot the butter, and I'm just going to ruin these stupid things, and I'll end up tossing them out after all that. So.
Well, the butter should just seep in.
Yeah, it did all right. But because I wasn't sure about that, as opposed to being blended in. But I'm sure people haven't tuned in to listen to our Thanksgiving recipes. So let's move on. What do you say?
Sure.
All right. But we do hope that you all had a good Thanksgiving and were able to spend time with your friends and loved ones. So
yeah, if you celebrate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt Rhule.
Mm-hmm.
8 years. Something 90 something.
What's it? 72 million as reported by Ian Rappaport.
Rap sheet at Rap Sheet.
Which, if you're a math major, breaks down to about $9 million a year, somewhere in that vicinity.
I think perfectly 72. That's 9.
Mm-hmm.
Former math major.
Well, that's what's reported. I'm sure it might be a little bit different.
Yeah, and then the Panthers owed him like $34 million, and I think we're paying most of it for him to be our coach. So
yeah. And reportedly, he's already brought a couple assistants to Nebraska from Carolina. So.
Oh, one of them was a strength and conditioning coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone just posted a photo of it, and that dude looks jacked.
Well, I would hope most defensive not defensive, but
strength and conditioning.
NFL strength coaches are jacked. You'd hate to have some guy in there look like.
Well, didn't you say he was with Baylor?
Yeah, I believe. The first assistant he hired, who was his DB coach in Carolina and Baylor, was the first guy they reported that has been signed. And I think it's great that he's bringing in some guys he's familiar with and has worked with before. But I hope he doesn't. I hope he brings in a couple of new people that he hasn't worked with before to kind of maybe bring some fresh ideas and different perspectives.
I agree,
because I think that was part of Scott's problem was he brought his whole coaching staff with him to Nebraska. And, I mean the receiver coach was gone after the first year, but I mean basically he just ran the gamut with those guys, and a couple of them improved, like Chenander on defense, and I think Barrett Ruud did pretty well, and Fisher. But I think a couple of the offensive guys just were a little bit overwhelmed and weren't quite ready for that level.
Until they forced them to get new people in there.
Yeah.
Except they let them keep Chenander in the defense kind of this year.
Yeah, but it's I want to say it's funny, but I don't really mean funny. But when the job came up, Matt Rhule was one of the first, in that first consortium of names that was put out there.
I remember on game day they brought him up.
Yeah, Matt Rhule, and then there was the Iowa State coach
Campbell,
and then there was Leipold at Kansas, and then you heard a few more names as it went on. Jeff Monken, the Army coach, Chris Kleinschmidt at Kansas State, DeBoer, the coach at Washington, and then the search kind of evolved, and then Matt Campbell just kind of fell away. You really didn't hear much about him.
He was like the first 2 weeks, and then I was
he was the hot name. I mean, even the guys on ESPN were saying he would be the right guy. But Iowa State's kind of struggled this year, so maybe
maybe he's more content to just stay there.
Yeah. So then he kind of fell off. And then there was Dave Aranda was talked about for a while. He kind of fell by the wayside. And then Leipold ended up signing an extension. DeBoer signed an extension. So those guys were kind of out of it. So then the key to me was, when was the press conference going to be called? If the press conference was called right after the Iowa game or within the next couple of days, you knew it wasn't going to be a sitting coach, because if it was a coach who was active, they'd have to wait till his season was over.
Yep. So,
but then the news broke, kind of started leaking out that they were trying to reach an agreement with Matt Rhule, and eventually as the day went on, the sites started picking it up. More sites started picking it up, and then I guess he came on ESPN Game Day and had officially accepted the job and interviewed with them and told them the reasons why he thought Nebraska would be a good place.
I watched it right before we recorded this, so I could kind of talk about that.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting, because rumor is they offered him the job about a month ago, or at the beginning of the month, and he wasn't interested at the time or what have you, because we heard reports that he had pulled out of the running, and I heard from a couple of sources that Urban Meyer was a possibility, maybe to come in.
I like Urban Meyer's a good college coach, but after all the Jacksonville stuff, I feel like that's just a negative.
Yeah, I agree. But sometimes you get some of that, that's pie in the sky,
But that's also
rumors.
a big name too that
Very
people would want to go play for.
Yeah. So then in the last week, you kind of heard Leipold was out of it, as we said, and the last week or two, I kind of heard Rhule and Kleinschmidt, and I would have been happy with either one of those guys, because when Trev fired Frost, he basically told you what he wanted. He wanted a guy that ate and slept, college football, was a proven builder, was committed to the process, strong recruiter, strong base of program, and Matt Rhule just basically fit all those criteria that Trev said he was looking for, and I would have been happy with either one of those guys. And as I said earlier on an earlier podcast, we were talking about the coaching search. I trusted Trev to make the right decision, and clearly Matt Rhule was the guy he had focused in on. And when things didn't seem to work out, either they went to a plan B, or he went back to the Regents and said, "Hey, we need a little bit more money to make this deal happen." And maybe we'll find out in the coming months, if not days, what the timeline was. But Trev landed his guy, and like I said, I think Matt Rhule is one of his top candidates from day one, and maybe his number one candidate from day one.
Yeah, his press conference is tomorrow too.
Yeah,
at 12:30.
1:30.
No, because you talked about the developmental. I did watch the College Game Day, and the quote that stood out to me, he said, "Developing players is his passion."
Yeah,
it's his passion. It's what he loves to do. He loves to see guys succeed, go to school, get an education, be able to do things outside of NFL contracts or playing football.
And he wanted to see guys succeed in football and outside of football.
Yes.
And like you said, there was no better place than Nebraska, because I assumed he was referring to the walk-on program that Nebraska is famous for, bringing guys in off scholarship. And these guys work and then toil for several years and then start, and some of them become All-Americans, so.
Yeah, I think he referenced that in the interview as
Yeah.
well. And plus, another thing, he talked about how growing up in Nebraska was always something, so a team like he revered, like someone he looked up to, because they were the college football franchise back in the day. And I think if anything, if getting a guy like Rhule, who's a developmental coach that understands the history and the tradition of Nebraska football, I think that's important, because I think the best time to rebuild Nebraska is now, because if this gets too out of hand, what are we going to talk about like 10, 15 years down the road? You see it on Twitter now. People talk about, who likes Nebraska? Nebraska's dead, blah, 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 blah. It's because there's all these kids online talking. They don't understand. Nebraska used to be good in the 90s. They don't care anymore. It's all about Alabama. So, I mean, getting guys who are older, good coaches that understand how good Nebraska is, they're going to want to come and help fix us. You can't maybe say the same thing in 10 years. Like, oh, well, who cares about Nebraska? Nebraska's just a school that sucks at football.
Yeah.
So I think they'll always kind of have that tradition part, but that doesn't necessarily will help develop. Because now we just need to get back to a solid state. Like, I know we fired Pelini. I don't want to talk about Pelini anymore. But the idea of that was that we wanted to get back to a national championship level. Well, essentially, it just brought us back down to nothing. So now we just need to get back up to a solid foundation. And I think Matt Rhule is the perfect coach to do that. And people are going to talk about how he failed in Carolina. Well, that's not really I don't think that's a good testament, because pro coach is different than a college coach, because I know this is the NBA. I don't remember who it was, but they talked about how there was a college coach who got a job in the pros, and during practice he would have guys like work on drills, like, we want to practice your boxing out or whatever. And the NBA guys are like, why are we practicing this? We're pros. We understand this. There's a reason why I'm in the NBA. And so they kind of look at that the wrong way. So I think if Rhule's more of a developmental guy, maybe going to the pros, that wouldn't translate as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
somewhat.
Telling a pro how to do their job and how to get better, I think it's harder in a sense to do it there, because they're adults and they have families and stuff. You can't treat them like kids and like do things like that. I'm not saying that's what Matt Rhule did, but I'm saying maybe that developmental process translates better in a college setting, which it did in Temple and Baylor.
Definitely.
So I think people talk about his Panthers, him getting fired, I don't know if that's necessarily a negative. If anything, I think that just shows that he likes college football more, and this is where he is better at.
Well, some guys are just college coaches,
Saban wasn't good in the pros. People talk about that all the time.
He dipped his toe in the pro game, and he found out his system didn't quite work. Now, he only got to be there 3 years, and so he believes his system would have worked if he would have had more time.
Yeah.
But, his first year there was the COVID year with all the restrictions and what have you, and so he kind of started behind the 8 ball just from the get-go. But as you were saying, the flexibility to change your roster in the pros is very limited. Yeah, you can change your practice squad and, get rid of a third or fourth string receiver and try to bring somebody else in for tryouts, what have you. But the team you have is the team you have. I mean, because it's incumbent on your management to bring guys in and sign players. And so if these guys, when you come in, if these guys aren't fitting your system, I mean, you got to try to make it work, or you're going to try to go out and get guys who will fit in that system. But the Panthers aren't going to go out and sign major free agents. That they're not fiscally limited, but they're fiscally responsible, and you just don't see them going out and signing big name players.
Well, they weren't even in a position to really do that anyways.
Yeah, and now look at them now. They've even traded McCaffrey away, and so
they're completely rebuilt.
Yeah, so they're already kind of in a rebuild mode anyway, and so
I guess
it doesn't make sense, in that way. To me, it doesn't make sense to keep Rhule on, because he's not looking for a rebuild. He started his rebuild when he got hired 3 years ago.
Well, yeah, he did have Darnold too to help.
Yeah,
but that didn't really just pan out.
He got injured.
Yeah.
Stuff,
so I mean, how much is that Rhule's fault? How much is that just he doesn't have the talent?
And then when he came into Baylor, they were just getting over that big scandal and stuff. So I mean, he's worked through a lot of stuff. As you said, he started at Temple. He was there for 4 years, and he took Temple from 2-10, and then 10-3 his last year.
Baylor's 1-11, weren't they?
Yeah, and Baylor they were 1-11 his first year, and they ended at 11-3 after 3 years. So yeah, he's what I like about him is if you go through his wiki or his history, he's coached every position basically on a football team. He's coached linebackers, defensive line. He's been a special teams coordinator. He's worked with quarterbacks. He's been the offensive coordinator. He's been an assistant O-line coach in the pros with the Giants at one time, and a recruiting coordinator. So he's basically done all the jobs on that a college coach's staff would do.
I get what you're saying.
So he kind of has an idea what everything needs to be done and what they do. And you mentioned his time in the pros. He's worked with Bill Belichick. He's worked with Tom Coughlin. He's worked with Dick Vermeil. I mean, and Belichick even said, quote, he's a football guy. I have a ton of respect for his the way he approaches the game. And for Belichick, that's like heaping praise on somebody because, he never says much positive about anybody.
Yeah. Well, Rhule said the same thing. He said he respects Scott Frost a lot as a coach and the way they treated him.
Yeah, and he considers him a friend.
Yeah, and how they treat him over here, that just made Nebraska more appealing, too.
Yeah.
So.
And I think he's doing the right thing. He called Coach Osborne and talked to him and said that was a bucket list thing for him.
We watched the same interview.
Yeah, and then but Coach Osborne said he wasn't going to be able to be there at the press conference Monday, so he just wanted to let people know that that's not a sign of him not giving support to Matt Rhule. He said, I'm there to support him. I told him whatever he needs. He can come to me, and I'll try to help him with whatever he wants. And that's what he's going to have to do. Rhule's going to have to come in. And Scott, same thing when Scott came in. He's going to have to go in. He's going to have to lay the groundwork of a foundation, reconnect with the past players because, they're great representatives of your program. He's going to have to touch base with the local high school coaches and try to get a footing in with the local. He's already offered a couple players, and I believe he offered one of the players from Omaha West Side who just won the state championship. He had a track offer for here, and then he had several smaller school football offers, but they offered him as a football scholarship. So he's out there and trying to get stuff going. So it'll be interesting. There'll be a lot of things that'll come down the pipe, with assistant coaches and salary and players. Trey Palmer already declared for the NFL. So we'll see who else declares. I mean, if Casey doesn't stick around, he's definitely going to have to find himself a quarterback because I don't think
Purdy's not the answer.
Purdy and
Smothers
are gonna be it. I mean, the kind of offense he's going to run is going to be similar probably to what Whipple had in some aspects. But
yeah, that was my question. To be honest, I'm not too familiar with Matt Rhule. Like, I don't really watch a lot of college football.
His offense is based on the run game, and then he works off that. So
I always like that.
His foundation is a lot of coaches probably have the same belief, but to build strong lines, and then go from there. It's kind of like baseball. You want to be strong up the middle. You want to have a solid, tackles. You want to have a good middle linebacker, and you want to have a couple good safeties. And then you can work out from there with speed and quickness and what have you. And it's the same on offense. You need a solid offensive line, a good quarterback, and a good running back, and then your tight end and receivers, to complement that.
Well, a strong run game is only going to help your quarterback. It's just going to open it all up for him.
So. Well, he's got some talent there, but they have some work to do on depth. Offensive line has struggled, defensive line has struggled, of course, and so it'll be interesting. He's going to have ties in Texas since he was at Baylor. Texas is always a pretty fertile recruiting ground. And then the coast, Florida and California is where you get your speed, and then you pick players throughout the country, to fill out your roster and what have you. So it'll be interesting to see where they focus. If they go hard on the JUCOs and the portal transfers can start this weekend. So he's going to have to hit the ground running, as we said, and so he's got to get staff in place because he's going to need those guys to help him. And they'll have the grad assistants there, I'm sure, will help him, until he gets off and running. And, Mickey offered several players while he was the coach, and a lot of people are hopeful that Mickey will stay and stay on the staff. But I would say right now the chances of that probably aren't too good. But I know a lot of people would love for that to happen. But can you be the head man? You go from being the receiver coach to the receiver coach and assistant head coach, and then become the head coach, and then go back to being the receiver coach. I mean, I don't know if I could do that.
Would he necessarily be the receiver coach?
Well, he would be whatever Matt Rhule would like him to be. I mean, And he'll have to sit down and meet with these coaches and tell them, hey, I'm going to have to let you go, or, there's a chance I might want you on this staff or what have you. And then he's going to have to go through and do interviews with the players and what have you. So, yeah, he's got a lot to do right away. And, it's good that Nebraska got him in now. The season's just over, and they got to start working on the future of the team. So,
I also want to, because I think Mike at lunch brought up a good point. I remember when he was talking, he said, well, it's kind of weird, Matt Rhule has all these millions of dollars from the Carolina contract, right? So what's going to motivate him to want to even want to coach?
That contract's offset by what he signs at Nebraska. And I don't know the dynamics of it, but whatever he gets paid by Nebraska is going to kind of take up some of what Carolina offers him.
Yes, so. But Desmond Howard made a good point on College Game Day. He said, well, Matt Rhule could have just sat at his house and made whatever, those $30 million from Carolina. So the fact that he actually, converted that into Nebraska money and wanted to go there, I think that's a sign that he actually cares about what they got going there.
Well,
so I just wanted to make that point.
That plus, like I said a little bit earlier, the report was they offered him the job, and either he said, I think I'm just going to sit out coaching for the next couple of years, and then Nebraska went back to him, and I'm sure with more money or, a better plan or what have you, and then he agreed. So, yeah, he waffled a little bit. But Nebraska had to go back and say, this is what we can do, and then he accepted. So,
well, the fact that he changed his mind, that must show that he cares somewhat about what's going on.
Well, that or Nebraska
that he wants to be a part
Nebraska
of it.
Made him a pretty good offer that he couldn't turn down. So,
okay, well, that kind of just contradicted my point. I just wanted to show that Matt Rhule cared. I think he does care, but.
Well, he says, he cares about the players and the relationship.
Well, he can say that.
And that's what he misses, the locker room and working with them and the coaches and stuff.
He's not even gone a month.
Well, I mean,
no,
he's probably referring to the college game.
No, I think Matt Rhule said everything perfectly. In the long run, do I think it's a good hire? At this time, yes. But you can only see as it goes on. We thought, I'll never forget the guy, I think on Big Noon College Football. He said Scott Frost wasn't like a home run hire. He was like a walk-off grand slam in the bottom of the ninth for the World Series hire. And then look how that turned out. So you just never know.
Well, yeah, on the way to work Saturday, I was listening to Dari Noka and Mel Kiper, and they had their own little radio show. And they were talking about the reports, and Mel Kiper thinks this is a grand slam. He goes, this is as close to a grand slam as you can get. And Dari was, well, that's what we thought with Scott Frost. So he goes, I'm hesitant to say the word grand slam.
Yeah.
And Mel was like, well, in my opinion, it's as close as you can get without it, So,
yeah.
and most of the national pundits have reflected very well on the hire. I saw a few negative comments, but all the news channels do this, and it drives me nuts. When something like this happens, let's go to the local bar and talk to the customers there, and then you got some nerd on there or turd on there. Well, I don't know. He didn't do very good at Carolina, so I don't know how good he's going to be at Nebraska. They just settled for somebody. I'm like, these people don't know any better than us, really.
Well, then,
so
that's what you get in when I took journalism in college. You got to get two sides of the story. You got to get the head people. You got to hear what Nebraska says, and you got to hear what the commoners say.
Yeah,
because that's what we care about. We care about both sides of the story.
But the guy's just hired. Give him a chance. I mean, he's got an 8-year deal. So apparently, either he wanted a lot of security, or Trev knew it was going to take a while to get this thing going. So
it's going to take a while. You're going to see Matt Rhule for about 5 years.
At least.
I just hope he gets us back. Fuck, a bowl game. Let's get us to a bowl game. I'll be happy. Just get us back in the right track. That's all we need from Matt Rhule. We don't need to be national championship contenders.
Well, as you mentioned, Mike was saying 10-2 would be great, and I'm like 10-2. I'd be happy with 7-5 next year.
Well, shit, I thought this would be the year at least make a bowl, 500.
Well, we all did. We all didn't expect it to go sideways like it did, but the year ended on a good note. Nebraska went up to Iowa City and pulled it out and knocked off the Hawkeyes and brought home the Heroes Trophy, even those 2 Iowa fans didn't want to let it go.
They got it from that one girl. Like, boo.
Well, the one guy was holding it, and then the other lady was just...
She was going like this.
Yeah, and yelling stuff, and I'm just like, you're just making yourself look like a fool.
Shut up, bitch.
Good performance by Nebraska. Iowa turned the ball over several times, but, that's part of the game. Nebraska took advantage. Iowa was missing one of their top DBs. So they had a freshman step in, and Trey Palmer just made that kid look silly.
They're missing their tight end too.
Yeah, but they had Lachey, the backup guy. He real well. He's their next tight end to come along. He's a sophomore, so he'll be trouble for the next couple of years. Yeah. Nebraska played real well. They kind of hit the brakes a little bit, just trying to run a clock, and it kind of worked against them. And they kind of let Iowa creep back in, and then they had that fumble, and then you thought, oh boy, here we go, because like they scored 24-14. Thought, well, still 6 minutes to go. We got the ball. Well, then they ripped the ball out from Ramir. Yeah, and he fumbled. So,
he played really well, though.
Yeah.
Anthony Grant. Jesus.
So they got the ball back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Don't interrupt me. Can I finish one time?
No, sorry. Anthony Grant was
So then the black shirts muscled up, held them to a field goal. And then from there, I mean, they got the ball back, but they really had no shot. I mean, and I love the fact that Nebraska was very aggressive. They were aggressive on offense and aggressive on defense, especially at the end. They were like, well, that doesn't help me. Nathan just showed me a text that his fantasy guy scored a long touchdown.
86-yard touchdown, Josh Jacobs.
I wasn't going to give the details, but okay.
If you got Josh Jacobs, be happy.
He doesn't play for the Huskers last time I checked.
Okay, sorry.
But they're aggressive, and they got after Padilla, who had to take over because the starter got hurt. I don't think that would have made much of a difference.
Peters looked terrible. Sorry.
Well, Peters hasn't played that well all year, but yeah, Nebraska was aggressive. They had a chance to salt the game away a couple times. Thompson missed a wide open Oliver Miller down the field. Oliver Martin, sorry. And I'm sure he would have loved to score because he's transferred from Iowa. And then Quentin Newsom had the ball in his hands twice and dropped them both. And I was sitting watching that game, and I yelled audibly at the TV, "Catch the effing ball!" And I said, "That's why you're on defense, because you can't catch the ball."
Well, the first one was kind of difficult, but that last one, he right there, right through the breadbasket twice.
I was told in junior high, if you can touch it, you should be able to catch it.
Yeah, but that's also kind of a stupid.
No, it's not. If you can get your hands on it, you should be able to catch it.
Well, when you got in those instances, yes. But if you got like three guys closing in on you, like
he didn't have anybody closing in on him.
I'm saying not in those instances, but just that rule in general.
I'm referring to those instances.
But anyways, Anthony Grant pissed me off. The man does not run up the field. Every time he gets the ball, he's like running back and forth.
Well, it served him well early in the year, but now the problem is, like they had a situation. They had like 3rd and 2. And they kind of ran something off tackle. Well, instead of just, there was a little bit of a gap, but instead of cutting it up and putting his head down and going, he kept trying to run outside, and they just strung him out, and he ended up losing a yard or two. And I'm just like, run up, cut it up, and go up the middle. Basically the system is they tell you, you can run to the side, you get one step, take one cut, and then upfield. But he would just keep flushing outside. And that's the problem with guys who have a lot of speed. They always think, and you see it a lot in the pros, they keep trying to work everything to the outside because they think they can get out there and outrun everybody. But the pros just string you out until you're on the sideline and they're just out of bounds. Or you try to cut back and the backside's there and they just tackle you for no gain or loss. And that's
in the
his
NFL, they're all
situation.
freaks of nature. 350-pound men that could fly at you. No.
Yeah, I was impressed though. I was worried that Nebraska wouldn't be able to run the ball on Iowa, which they really didn't do a lot of. And I wasn't sure that Nebraska's line could hold up to their pass rush, but they did a good job and hit some big plays. The big 87-yarder tray and then some other stuff over the middle that kind of softened up the defense a little bit. I would like to see the tight ends involved a little bit more and maybe a couple screens or something to kind of slow down that pass rush. But Nebraska did enough and then held on at the end and made a couple big plays and really happy. 4-8's nothing to be excited about, but you go in there, you beat your rival, you end up what happened. You kept them from going to the Big Ten championship game.
If they would have won, Iowa would have went, but instead they had because they lost. They needed Purdue and Illinois.
Yeah,
to
they
lose,
needed some stuff.
which
to
they
happen.
both won. So
yeah,
they were screwed no matter what.
So they'll take solace in that they kept Iowa from going to the Big Ten championship, and it's a rival, and they hadn't beat them since 2014 when Iowa happened to be in attendance at that game. So it was good to see
the Mornay game.
See that come around, and not have to go back to Iowa City. So, did you get to see any of it, or did you?
Yeah,
work?
I watched the whole game actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I didn't work on Black Friday.
Oh, good.
So I actually got to watch the full Nebraska game.
So, did you have any your impressions of the game and what you saw?
No, I wanted to say that for the most part, the pass rush got home, and that on the back end they looked pretty well. But like we said, Petrus and that Alex Padilla, they didn't really look like much of nothing anyways. He made some good throws to that. What was the guy's name? Luke Lee, that tight end guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like he made some good throws to him. Running wise, they had that big run. Most of the time, at the beginning of the game, they were averaging like 8 yards to carry Iowa.
Yeah.
Like, man, just want to keep pounding the ball, but then they would just keep throwing it. I go, shoot, do that all day. You guys can't throw the ball worth for nothing. And all they talked about all game was they always brought up that stat. Oh, Iowa, the biggest comeback in history is 21 points. This would be the biggest comeback in history.
Yeah.
Oh, Iowa, they only average 17 points a game. Oh, Iowa, they're coming back. And it's just like, oh, shit, this is just not – it's that Nebraska fan in you now. You're like, oh, fuck, this is going to go the wrong way.
Well, it was 24-7, and Big Ten Network is talking about the biggest comeback in Iowa history. And I'm like, they're even expecting Nebraska to blow this.
And
a
little part of me inside was going, oh, shit, they're going to blow this again. But
well, I at 24-14, I was still pretty comfortable. And then that fumble, I thought, oh, my gosh, they're going to piss down their leg and give it away. And they tried, but, like I said, they made enough plays, and Iowa was really sketchy on offense, as we talked about. Yeah. So
I was also happy to see Ramiro Johnson, like I said. He looked good when he carried the ball, besides that fumble.
He had fresh legs. He hadn't played a lot throughout the year, and so and like you said, Grant wasn't running real well, so why not put Ramiro in there and see what he had?
Especially because he had a good year last year.
Yeah, I mean, he had a great
It was just
game
kind of weird that
last year.
And he just disappeared. So it was good to see him actually get the ball because he's only a sophomore. Or is he older?
He should be a sophomore. I think he was a redshirt last year. And then you have Gabe Irvin, who came back from that knee injury. And then you have Allen, who got injured, the freshman. And they're really excited about his future. So
Trey Palmer's a beast, yeah. Washington had a good couple catches.
Mm-hmm.
Him and the Texas connection with Thompson.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll just, like I said, we'll find out next few days who's should I stay or should I go now. And that's what they'll all be thinking.
Yeah, they're all clashing.
So, yes, very good.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it's just both of the lines need help. Defensive line help stop the run, and then the offensive line kind of.
Well, I think the offensive line showed improvement throughout the year. They're
super young, too.
They got incrementally better. I mean, it wasn't big gains, but, little gains here and there, and they just very cohesiveness where they weren't letting guys just come through scot-free, which has happened several times. And on defense, I think Bill Bush called a pretty good game. Had a good scheme. It was aggressive, some good blitzes and stuff. The backside blitz that knocked Petrus out of the game where they got the fumble, and so those were big.
Oh, did you see that Caleb Tanner sack too? They were talking about that a lot. Who's the commentator? I think it's Jake Butt, that tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Then he used to play for Denver.
Yeah, he was from Michigan.
Yeah, but that Caleb Tanner had that sack. No one was on him. Well, the right tackle was supposed to guard him because he was the edge rusher.
Block him?
Yeah, instead of going to the right, he turned into the left. So literally, we looked away from Tanner, and Tanner just right to the quarterback, and he was like, "What the hell is he doing?" I go, he just turned in, and it was double teaming on the guy on the inside.
Well, Nebraska probably set that up because in that formation, what probably had been happening was Caleb Tanner was backing out of there and dropping into pass coverage, taking the flat. And so you get that tackle, and he thinks, well, that guy's just going to drop out, so I'm going to help block this, this D-tackle. Well, this time when he turned his head, Caleb Tanner rushed in.
Well, it's just funny because it looked really stupid on TV.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's part of the defense. You some of the plays you run or some of the schemes you run, depending on offense, defense, are there, and you're doing those to set up things later in the game. So, sometimes they run a play and you think, well, what's that going to – well, it sets something up later in the game, like play action or, like I said, a certain scheme where you show that you do this every time, but then all of a sudden one time, instead of dropping into coverage, you're blitzing. And so it's a chess game. That's why I call it a chess game. And
well, I agree, but I think that was just a stupid play by the tackle. Yeah. I think you're giving Nebraska too much credit.
I don't think so.
Bill Bush, though, most part for that second half of the year, he was really good as defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
so
he showed well.
Give him credit. And give credit to Mickey Joseph. Like we said, he probably won't be back. At least I don't think so.
Yeah,
but he said all the right things, and he won those players over.
Sure.
And he's getting his win against Iowa, and the transition into the Rhule era, I think he did his job very well. He set us up for at least some excitement going into the future.
Yeah, he ended the season on a positive note, and he said the guys are going to get their black shirts back, and they'll be in their lockers tomorrow and stuff. So I don't know what they're going to do with them, but they'll have their black shirts back. So
the seniors, fuck, I finally get this back. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good for the seniors, too, to actually win a game.
Did you see Mickey's interview after the game? He had his little son sit with him.
Yeah, and he was picking his nose.
Yeah, he was picking his nose, and I think he might have ate it once or twice. And then he started, "Hey, Dad." He's like, "Shh, shh, shh."
No, because Mom pointed it out. She goes, "Oh, there's a kid picking his nose."
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Your buddy Jason Tatum does that a lot. His son's always on the court with him when they interview him after the basketball games.
Deuce?
So, is that his name?
He's Jason Tatum Jr. They call him Deuce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he's at all the games. He was there when we were there.
Yeah. So, overall impression of the weekend for Nebraska was very good, in and on a positive note, and I'm very optimistic about Matt Rhule. I won't say he's not exciting me like I was excited for the Scott Frost hire, but like I said, I put my confidence in Trev to make the right hire, and Matt checked all the boxes that Trev said he wanted. So,
well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe all the expectations aren't necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, well, and it'll be interesting. We'll know more tomorrow at his press conference, and we'll actually get to hear from the man directly, and that'll kind of set the mood. And so, you can win the press conference. So
I think he won on that game day interview.
Yeah, so if he can come out and win the press conference, that'll just set the off season in motion on a good note. And like I said, we'll see what kind of feedback he gets from the recruits out there when he goes out with the big N on his chest now.
No, I'm excited.
So, yeah,
I followed him on Twitter.
Nice.
He posted that photo of him in Nebraska. Did you see that edit?
Yeah, they
sticking his
they go
fist
in there.
out.
Yeah, they can edit pictures pretty quickly. Take him in a Carolina Panther shirt, and all of a sudden he's wearing Nebraska something. So
you followed that MLB Cut account? I think it's Cut something.
No,
but it's like an affiliation with the MLB, but they do goofy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And every time someone gets traded, they always they do the Microsoft Paint where they just put a stupid hat and write in a B, so it looks really bad. They're Mookie Betts' his first shot in the Dodger uniform, and it's really bad. They always make me giggle.
What's the B stand for on the Dodgers uniform?
Well, sorry, I said B like Boston.
Brooklyn Dodgers?
But now I was trying to think of a Boston player that left.
That maybe went back to Brooklyn.
I hope he went back to Boston, but whatever.
Yeah.
So, you got any more college football to talk about that I didn't watch? I mean, that I'm excited about?
Yeah. We can talk about the coaching carousel a little bit. That's already taken place. It broke today that Wisconsin's going to hire Luke Fickell, the Cincinnati coach, and apparently Jim Leonard was kind of blindsided by this because apparently he was under the impression that he had the job and had done well enough, but apparently the Wisconsin president was working behind the scenes to get Luke Fickell signed and to Madison. And I saw something on Twitter before we started recording that it looked like it was official. He's informed the team, the Bearcats, that he was leaving, and they've named an interim coach. And
Wisconsin posted something.
Yeah, and they'll have a press conference in the next day or two. So it'll be interesting because since put your hand down.
I just want to talk
with these. No, you can't. With these two guys being hired, it'll be interesting because they'll be compared to each other throughout their coaching history as they move along. And I didn't really ever hear Luke Fickell's name mentioned with the Nebraska search very much. His name was thrown in there early, but I don't think he was ever really given serious consideration for the Nebraska job. So we'll see. It's a great hire for Wisconsin. David Shaw resigns at Stanford. They had a tough year, and out of respect to the Cardinal, he decided to move on. You see him a lot on ESPN when they do their draft coverage. He's really good, does good analysis. So if he doesn't end up coaching, I bet he ends up on ESPN or somewhere like that.
Who was it? I'm sorry?
David Shaw. Lane Kiffin has re-signed at Ole Miss, though rumors broke early last week he was going to go to Auburn. And I think maybe he was going to go to Auburn, but once the news broke, he thought, well, he didn't want that news out there. So now he's just saying, well, I was never going to go to Auburn. I'm going to stay at Ole Miss. So now he's signed a contract. And now the rumors circulating is maybe Hugh Freeze, the coach at Liberty, might be going to Auburn. But that's still just talk right now. There's a few mid-major and FCS schools that have fired the coaches. So the coaching carousel has started, but those are the main dominoes so far.
Well, we're already off it, so that's good.
Yeah. So we found a horse we liked, and we rode it around a couple times, and we got off when our quarter ran out. So
there you go. No, I wanted to say that Jim Leonard,
yeah,
he's going to be the Packers' new defensive coordinator.
You think?
I want to speak it into existence. Because
Joe
Dingle Doofer-Berry needs to go.
Dingle Doofer-Berry. I would love to see Matt Rhule offer his defensive coordinator job to Jim Leonard. That would be quite interesting to bring him to Nebraska.
I don't know how much interest he'd have to come into Nebraska, but
he might want to get back at Wisconsin a little bit there.
That's true. No, I'd rather have him in Green Bay. And then the Broncos going to fire Nathaniel Hackett. He's going to come back and be our offensive coordinator again.
Okay, let's save that for the NFL talk.
And then hopefully we trade. Never mind.
Yeah. Did you watch any of the Michigan Ohio State game then? Saturday?
I didn't get to. I worked on Saturday.
Oh.
I just had Friday off, so I was able to watch Nebraska.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Michigan. I thought, after beating Ohio State last year and coming back to the horseshoe, that Ohio State would probably come out and win. They went down scoring their first drive, but Ohio State came out with a very aggressive scheme on defense. And what happened was they got burned. They wanted to go one-on-one in their pass coverage. Michigan's offensive line held up, and the running backs played well enough, even though Corum didn't play. He started, but he came out after a series after he had a knee injury he was recovering from, and apparently he just couldn't go.
Very good player.
Yeah, and Michigan's offensive line held up enough where McCarthy could throw down the field, and he hit a couple big pass plays that kind of broke things open and actually kind of kept Michigan in the game because they were down 10-0 or 14-0 at one point. I can't remember exactly the score, but they got back to 14-7, and at half they're only down by 3 points, so they kind of crawled back into it. And then I was listening to the game on the radio while I was working. But yeah, then somewhere along the second half they shut Ohio State down and just kind of took control and ended up winning like 45-23. So a very impressive win for Michigan. They hadn't won in Columbus for forever. I think somebody at work said this century. They hadn't won this century in Columbus. So great, great for Jim Harbaugh. He struggled. Now they've won twice in a row. And Michigan, unless they would lose to Purdue in the Big Ten championship game this weekend, looks like strong to be in a playoff contender.
Number two
seed right now.
Because they're probably not going to pass Georgia.
Well, Georgia's got to play LSU, and LSU just got thumped by A&M, which was a bad look. So,
well, that bumps LSU out probably.
LSU is on the outside looking in anyway. But
I meant the chance to go in.
If they could have gone in and beat A&M and then beat Georgia somehow, they probably would have been the fourth team in. Yeah.
Well, because it's TCU, and who's the fourth team?
Georgia, TCU, and Michigan are the three for sure. And I would say probably the fourth team right now is probably USC. They knocked off Notre Dame yesterday, pretty handily yesterday. Notre Dame had been playing pretty well the last few weeks, and USC just handled them. And Caleb Williams, the Oklahoma transfer at USC, is the favorite to win the Heisman right now, and he had a great game. He was pretty much unstoppable by Notre Dame and their defense. So,
what kind of stinks for Ohio State, too, because they have a good year, and then, you lose to Michigan, and then you just get booted out. Well, but it's kind of how it is. They don't. You already lose. They don't want to have that same matchup in the playoff again.
They have an outside chance to still get in. The fact they lost the number 2 team, they won't drop super far in the polls.
They'll probably go down to 5th.
Yeah, so it'll just be how things shake out, And TCU, even though they played it very well, they're not safe. They have to, play K-State. In the Big 12 championship game. So K-State's a pretty formidable team right now too. And Adrian Martinez didn't play Saturday, so we'll have to see what his health situation is. But
that is true. I guess if they lose to K-State, that'd probably bump Ohio State back.
There's a possibility, yeah. So
because Ohio State can't really.
And Alabama's still sitting out there. They came back and won yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later here.
Oh, you'll talk about it. No, yeah. And then Clemson lost to South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina, who just put a thumping on Tennessee a couple weeks ago. So
Spencer Rattler, baby. The hype's back.
Yeah. Not impressed.
Well, when he was at Oklahoma before we went to go see him, I remember watching the mock draft, and Rattler's in the top 5. I'm like,
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler, he turned into poo-poo.
Poo-poo caca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out Caleb Williams.
So, yeah, right now, Georgia, Michigan, and TCU are in control of their own fate. And I would say USC is, too, if they win the Pac-10 championship. Otherwise, it'll be open to whoever can step up. Now, I got a quiz for you, and I know
We kind of talked about this before.
I talked to you a little bit earlier, and you don't think you're going to do very well. But a lot of the rivalry games take place at this time of year. And these games is traditional where they play each other at the end of the year all the time. And so these rivalries have nicknames, or trophies they play for, what have you. So I want to quiz you. I'm going to give you what the game's called, and I want to see if you can tell me what the teams are who play in the game.
All right, hold on. So wait, is that how you wanted to do it initially, or is that what I convinced you to do?
No, initially I was going to tell you the teams, and I wanted to have you tell me the nickname of the rivalry game.
Okay. Try it that way first.
Okay.
Do it the way you envisioned it, because I don't know how hard these are going to be. But like, you know how you talk about like, Nebraska and Iowa's the Heroes game. Like, how many of those am I going to know for like random conferences? Because I don't really watch college football.
Well, these are all major colleges. I'm not going to ask you, Kennesaw State versus Piedmont U. I mean,
well, I know, but okay, just give me.
But speaking of that, what's the name of that game?
I don't know. I don't give a shit bowl.
I made that up. So
I don't give a shit bowl.
all right, the first I'll start with the easy one. Kansas versus Kansas State, which took place this weekend, and K-State won, by the way, 47-27. What do they call? What's the name of the rivalry?
The rivalry. Kansas and Kansas State. Is it
and it's affiliated with with Kansas. This is something that's affiliated with Kansas.
I didn't know if like sunflowers.
Yeah.
Is it sunflower bowl or something?
Close.
Sunflower trophy.
When you face off against somebody, what's it called?
Sunflower fight.
No.
Sunflower match off.
Sunflower showdown.
Oh, okay.
So very good.
That was pretty good. I pulled out of my ass.
Yeah.
When you said associated with Kansas, I go, I don't know how sunflower came to mind, but it did.
That's good. On the same vein, Washington versus Washington State. The Huskies won this one 51-33 this weekend.
Washington versus Washington State.
And it's the significance with the state of Washington.
I don't know what Washington's known for.
If you walk through the produce aisle at the store, fruits and vegetables, you might see these.
Fruits and vegetables that Washington is known for.
Yeah. You mentioned you ate this on Thanksgiving.
Pumpkin pie, sweet potatoes.
No.
Apple.
There you go.
Apple pie.
Well, it's not called apple pie.
Yeah, the apple pie rivalry.
Yeah.
I don't know, the apple stampede, the apple cider bowl. I don't know what you do.
Something you drink out of.
Cup.
There you go.
Apple cup.
Apple cup. There you go.
I've never heard of that before.
Oh, really?
No.
All right, let's try this. Oregon State.
Oh, Jesus.
With Oregon State pulling off the upset, the Beavers beat the Ducks 38-34.
Is this something to do with Oregon?
Something to do with history.
History.
Yeah.
Oregon. The Oregon Trail.
I could grant you a hint. Grant.
I figured Grant had to do something with the clue.
And then, where's Nebraska play football?
Lincoln.
Uh-huh.
Lincoln Grant Bowl.
No.
Grant Lincoln Bowl.
When's the last time Grant Lincoln faced off?
I don't know.
Civil War.
Oh,
it's called the Civil War.
The Civil War, yeah.
Civil War.
See, even like if you gave me that, I never would have been able to come up with Oregon.
Okay, that's fine.
I could have came up with Kansas State for sure.
Well, you did. Alabama versus Auburn.
The Iron Bowl.
Oh, there you nailed that right off.
That one's easy.
Crimson Tide took that 49-27.
Well, that's because the stupid what's
this
his
one
face?
they just call the game. I'm gonna go reverse on you. Who plays the game?
The game.
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm gonna feel stupid if I don't know what this is. The game.
It's not a wrestler either. I know what you're thinking.
No, it's not Triple H. Time to play.
This is the Big Show.
Big Show's nickname's not the game.
I know.
The game?
We just talked about it a little bit.
Is it Michigan and Ohio State?
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking that, but I wasn't sure.
They
Why
say-
did he call it the game?
Just it's simply the game. It's the game. It's the one game. It's the game of all games. So
What, because they're always so good?
I guess I don't know. And then I got one last one for you. This will be the toughest. Purdue versus Indiana, and the Boilermakers won 30-16 to get their pass to the Big Ten championship game to face Michigan.
Purdue versus who?
Indiana.
Indiana. I thought you said Illinois. I was
The
confused.
Hoosiers.
Fuck if I know.
The old Oaken Bucket.
Yeah. You expect me to come out the old Oaken Bucket?
No, I did not. But that's a good name. The old Oaken Bucket.
Yeah, it wasn't. Hold on, I got to figure out what the.
You gonna look up what an old Oaken Bucket looks like?
No,
No.
that's not what I was looking at.
Oh, okay.
The victory. Yeah, it's just called the Victory Bell with Nebraska and Missouri.
Yeah, they haven't played for that for a while. Who holds that currently? Was it Nebraska or Missouri?
Current win streak. Nebraska's at 2 games.
Well, apparently Nebraska hasn't. We'll have it forever unless they play again. I could see them scheduling Missouri maybe in the future as an opponent, as an SEC opponent. I've always pushed for them to schedule Arkansas. It's a nice trip. It's a SEC opponent. You know, it's about midway is Kansas City, so it's Kansas City's midway to Lincoln, midway to Arkansas. So I think that'd be a fun trip. A lot of Nebraskans would make it, and it'd be pretty enjoyable. All right, if you're listening, Trev, schedule Arkansas.
Oh, Nebraska and Colorado used to have a trophy.
We want the Razorbacks.
It was called the Bison Head Trophy,
Oh, really?
and then Colorado lost it in 1961.
Oh.
So when Nebraska won in 1962, they weren't able to give it to them because they lost it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then Colorado's on a 2-game winning streak against us.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. We should have won both those. But speaking of coaching carousel, there's a rumor out there that they have offered their job to Deion Sanders, the Jackson State coach.
Does he even want to go to Colorado?
I don't see it. I see him staying, down south or SEC, something like that. But yeah, to go from where he's at to Power 5 school is a pretty big jump. But
Yeah, Jackson State.
he's a hot ticket, and he definitely would help with recruiting and attendance and ticket sales and that kind of stuff. So why not go for it?
Should can Nebraska.
Yeah, I don't think Nebraska ever seriously considered him.
Well, there's a room about. Nah, we'll go with Matt Rhule.
Yeah, you got anything else in the coaching ranks or
Coaching, no.
football?
Football, not really.
Want to move on to the pros or?
Yeah, we can move on to the pros.
Okay.
Do you have a lot about the pros?
I just wanted to talk about the Thanksgiving Day, as far as the NFL goes. Hey, what do you think about the NFL crowning the Thanksgiving Day and weekend as salute to John Madden?
Well, I mean, it makes sense because he just passed away. So, what do you mean by crown? Did they like?
Well, they officially on all the fields. It's John Madden, Thanksgiving weekend or whatever. I think that's like kind of the official name.
Is that going to be going forward? Or is that just this time?
Every year from going forward now, and everybody had a lot of the games they were showing salutes to John Madden, and of course he's famous for the turducken, which is the turkey stuff with the duck, that stuff with the chicken. It's there's a story about he was at some event and they brought that to the event and he loved it so much and he called him back and says, I'm going to make that the official food of John Madden or John Madden football or whatever. And then, he had that big bus. He would drive all over the country because he was afraid to fly. So they'd always show him on that bus with that big turducken and stuff. And then there was tradition of after the game he called, the winning team's MVP players would always get legs off it, so there'd be that turducken would be there, and I have like 6 or 8 legs on it. So,
Yeah, I mean it's cool.
yeah, it's just a salute. I mean, he was really big into Thanksgiving and what it meant, and he's a legend because of not only his playing and coaching days, because of the John Madden, football, video game. So
Yeah, he's just a name. He's a well-known name in the football realms. So
do you know most? You know mostly from the video games. You probably didn't know much as a commentator or coach, did you?
No, I think he was done by the time I started watching football.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just kind of known him from the guy on the video game. But yeah, legendary coach, legendary broadcaster, and then he had the whole Turducken Day, so it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and he's famous for all the drawings and stuff he would do on the telestrator.
Yeah.
And then boom, and stuff like that. So, what's your take on the Thanksgiving Day games with the tradition of Dallas and Detroit playing every year? Detroit started playing on Thanksgiving in 1934 and has played every year since on Thanksgiving, and Dallas started playing on 1966. And then as of 2005, I believe it was, they have a random game at night, which is rotating teams to finish out the evening. But your take on watching Detroit and Dallas every Thanksgiving Day?
I don't know. It's just kind of a tradition. They just had Detroit on there now.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if Detroit was a good team. But, I mean, at least they were competitive with the Bills the other day.
Oh, very competitive.
So that was fun. And then plus they're on the right track as the rebuild continues. But Dallas is probably the most watched team. America's team, right? The most popular.
As they say.
As they say. I don't know how true that is anymore, but, I mean, it just kind of makes sense to have the Cowboys on there. So, yeah. And they usually play the Eagles or the Giants. So it's always a good rivalry game on Thanksgiving. And then Detroit's just kind of playing whoever now. Because I know late 2010s or so, Green Bay was always playing Detroit on Thanksgiving. And then it was kind of the Bears. They've played the Bears on Thanksgiving forever. But now I feel like random teams are kind of going in and out.
Well,
now.
I think at the start of it, they played the Bears pretty consistently every year. It was Detroit and Chicago every year. And then for whatever reason, they've kind of started rotating teams through. And, I've been able to see the Steelers play a couple times in my life on Thanksgiving Day.
Maybe it's just to get people who can have the experience of watching their team on Thanksgiving.
Well, that, and then if you're into fantasy football, you got guys going and any of the teams playing, it's a chance to get your fantasy football weekend off to a big start, and your guys have a good day, and then you're really excited for the weekend. If they don't, then it just kind of puts a damper on everything. But
hey, my biggest fantasy game ever came on a holiday. Christmas.
So if you've been following the pod since day one and you're taking notes on Nathan's fantasy team, there's another one to jot down.
Yep. Alvin Kamara had 6 touchdowns on Christmas. Could have had 7, but they gave Taysom Hill one of them. Fucker.
So you have no problem watching Dallas and Detroit every year?
No.
And it's probably better because, as we were just saying, they rotate the opponent. If it was the same 4 teams every Thanksgiving, that might get a little old.
Well, if it's a tradition, too, it's like, oh, yeah, Detroit and Chicago always play. I mean, they're 2 shitty teams, but it's just kind of like a thing. Oh, we got to watch Detroit and Chicago. How it goes. But I was going to say something, but I don't remember what I was going to say now. So that's great insight on my part. What was I going to say?
I don't know. How much you loved your father?
No, definitely wasn't that. It was something about Detroit.
Oh.
Detroit's always going to be a team I root for.
Oh.
Just because, you always feel so bad because they haven't really... They're always kind of known as like that team that's always bad. Or they haven't done nothing. So they're just a team that you always want to root for to do well.
Well, yeah, you'd like to see them go 500 or, have a little success and not just implode all the time. But I'm like you. I don't want to dive too deep into the Detroit. But I think they have the right coach, and he's got the right mindset, and they're on the right track. They drafted well this year with
Hutchinson.
Intentions of going forward, and they got they drafted that big receiver, Alabama, who was injured, but he might be back for a couple games here. So, I mean, they're progressing. I think they still need a quarterback. I don't think Jared Goff's the answer, but
no, he's a transitional
guy.
Guy.
They got several running backs that are good. They got some good receivers. The offensive line's pretty decent. I mean, they need help on defense still, of course, but I think Okuda will end up being a shutdown corner for them and stuff. So, yeah, they have pieces, and the fact that they're still struggling means they'll get high draft picks still going forward. So,
yeah, you never want to be in that area where you're not good enough to make the playoffs, but you're not bad enough to get a first pick every year. That middle range is death.
Yeah, you need to show improvement and get up there where some free agents will want to come play there. So,
yeah, I don't know how many guys are just wanting to go play with Detroit. They kind of got to get something there.
Well,
first.
It's tough, and I mean, it was good that Aiden Hutchinson fell to him at number 2, hometown boy, and who wanted to play for Detroit and was from that area, so that that helps, and a little hometown pride always seems to make people play a little harder. So
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. I think the quarterback has to be the one to kind of jumpstart that. Because how many people were going to want to go play for Kansas City until Mahomes got there? Like, just having that that generational talent that helps get people to want to come. Because you're going to be in Super Bowl contention every year. Because the Patriots weren't nothing until Tom Brady came around.
it's true.
Now the Patriots are always going to be.
And now that he's not there, they're not. They're kind of. I wouldn't say they're struggling, but they're not nowhere near as dominant as they have been. And
No, well,
Tampa Bay's struggling some too. So they just lost to the Browns today.
Do you have any more pro stuff you want to talk about?
No, I just wanted to touch base on the Thanksgiving aspect of the NFL. I mean, there's NFL going on right now, and stuff happened today. Some exciting games. Baltimore lost, and Justin Tucker tried a 67-yard field goal, and I was expecting him to make it, but it fell about 5 yards short.
Well, because it looked like on the screen that it was going to go right in there.
So Jacksonville pulled off the upset. The Chargers scored late and they went for two and beat the Cardinals. The Chiefs looked a little ragged against the Rams, but pulled it out. But, I mean, this is all stuff you can look up online. I mean,
I saw a stat on CBS when I was going to go look at my fantasy team. No, it has nothing to do with my fantasy.
Talking about your fantasy team.
It has nothing to do with my fantasy team. But Tom Brady had a streak of being up by 7 or more points in the fourth quarter, and he finally lost. It was I want to say it was.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Tom Brady, last pod we mentioned that he had thrown for over 100,000 yards, and I said that equated to a mile or two. Well, they had added it up and showed the stat today. It's actually equal to 57 miles. So I was just a little bit off in my math equations, or my calculations, let's say. So that's still very impressive. 57 miles of throwing.
It was when Tom Brady had a lead of a touchdown or more hitting into the final 2 minutes. There had been a 100% chance he would win. He was 218-0 until he lost to the Browns today in overtime. So talk about how good Tom Brady is. He got a 7-point lead.
Yeah, a funny side note, speaking of the Browns, and I hope this doesn't sound too bad, but I was walking into the bathroom and a guy in a Browns hoodie was right in front of me, and my friend Steve was coming out. He goes, "Oh, the Browns and the Steelers both going in here," and I go, "Yep, I'm about ready to take the Browns to the Super Bowl in here." So and the guy kind of laughed. So,
well, what a great joke! I'm so glad you said that on the podcast.
Yeah. You can edit it out later if you need to. So.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson's gonna be back next week too.
All right. Well,
Deshaun Watson's gonna be back next week too.
That's what they say. We'll see.
The fact
Brissett played well today, though. So,
well, they're saying he could play. He had the best year of his career.
Let's go to your side of the desk, and what do you have in front of you there, Nathan, that you'd like to talk about?
All right. Well, thanks for blowing past my Deshaun Watson point. But
I heard you. I just said Brissett played well today, and so I'm just thinking there might.
I was just saying
might be a little controversy.
They're not gonna.
They
gave him so much money. They're not gonna.
Well, he's rusty. I mean, let's see how much leash they give him.
Fuck,
It'll be interesting.
They don't give a shit too much because they gave him all that money despite all the stuff going on. But
well, we'll see.
Before I get into it, I just want to say exciting baseball news. Mike Clevenger signed with the White Sox.
Boo!
So a good pitcher goes to the White Sox.
We don't like the White Sox.
But
Fast Intentions.
Baseball's got one of the worst free agencies ever, because you know how NFL and NBA, as soon as free agency hits, you start seeing all the deals. Boom, 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 boom. Baseball, it drags out for a month. You got to go to the winter meetings, and it drags out for 2 more months. Sometimes people don't even get signed till in the spring training. Baseball's got to figure that out. Make it more exciting for the fans out there. Baseball and social media don't really have a good.
Well, there's not much of an off season in baseball, though. I mean, the season's 162 games, and then you have the playoffs, and they've added the wild card round. So I mean, there's there's only like 3 months where baseball isn't being played or something going on with baseball.
But still, it's like at least other sports kind of have like a little thing going on. Like baseball is just a big dragged out process. It's not as fun. But I just want to point that out. We're still waiting for the exciting stuff. Where's Aaron Judge going to go? Where's Jacob deGrom going to go? We don't get to know. We'll hear about that randomly at 2 a.m.
There's teams like the Royals that have hired a new coach, and he's still putting his staff together, and then they got to put their pitching philosophy together and how they're going to teach it through the minor leagues, and then they have openings in their minor leagues, and so and maybe certain people are still deciding what their future is going to be, or maybe these guys have offers from several teams.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So maybe they should push free agency to a certain period, so that all this stuff can go on, and then they have like a frenzy. All we want a free agency frenzy, Dad.
Well, they will. It'll come. There'll be a span of a week or two where all these signings start happening, especially the first couple of days.
The only time that really happened
popping off
was last year when they had the lockout, and then it's like, oh well, free agency will start at this time, and it's like, oh man, and even then it took a while for anything to happen.
Well, like you said, Aaron Judge. The problem is the big name guys are the ones that set the stage. You'll get a few signs like this Clevenger deal, but usually people wait and see who's going to spend the money on these big name free agents. And once that money's out there, then that sets, like I said, that sets the market for the other players and the other teams and what they can afford. And then as these guys drop off, then they have to go to their second, third options of who they want to try to get.
Yep.
So,
no, I agree. I'm just saying it happens a lot faster in other sports than baseball. But the point I want to talk about when we were talking about the Patriots was the World Cup. Listen to this transition. We're talking about the Patriots. The World Cup has been being played. I watched the United States play England because I had the day off as well. Did you get to catch any of that game? Probably not. You're probably working. So
I had to work, and I actually checked my Twitter scroll, and I saw the halftime score, and that it was scoreless. So I was pretty optimistic, and then it was several hours later when I remembered to go check the score, and then I saw that it was a draw. So for USA, that's pretty good. I mean, England's one of the top
dogs,
top national teams in pool play. So
yeah, and Nebraska's so young, so it's exciting to
Nebraska.
Nebraska, sorry. I just saw a photo of Herbie Husker on my phone, so I said Nebraska. The United States is very young. Nebraska's very young, though, too. But, no, the United States is really young, and so it's just kind of exciting to see them play well, especially because, no one associates us with football or soccer, depending on that debate as
Football.
well. No, but the thing that's been bothering me about it, because I'm not the biggest soccer fan either. Like, it's an all right game, but I'm not, like, going to just watch it for fun. I'll watch the World Cup, obviously. But I think the passes and stuff are cool, too, the way they kind of pass it back and forth through there. Being a math major, seeing that kind of geometry.
They're very athletic and very creative with what they do. And big reason why it's not as popular here is just because there's not enough scoring.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make, where people – it bothers me that people feel the need to go on Twitter and talk about how boring soccer is when other people are just trying to enjoy it. Like, they're just kind of – they'll just be like – oh, sorry, I totally just scratched the mic scratched the pen across the microphone. You'll definitely hear that. I apologize about that if your ears just popped off. But people, soccer's so boring. It's 0-0. No one cares about it. And then people have to go on Twitter and talk about how boring it is and how people are stupid for watching it. It's like, do you really need to? No one cares what your opinion is about soccer. Let's watch soccer and enjoy the damn game. It was 0-0. Who cares? Like this, I don't want to call him out, but this athletic reporter for the Celtics, name is Jake King. He posted, "You guys watched the destined for nothing team play 90 minutes of a suspect sport, and nobody scored the entire time. Sounds like a lot of fun." And I said, well, it's weird that you have to shit on other sports just because you don't enjoy it. Just let people watch what they want to watch. And ironically, they're a Patriots fan too. They said, you like the Patriots. You're watching them just so they can not make the playoffs and get eliminated in the first round. So I thought that was kind of funny. That's kind of the transition I was headed for.
That happens a lot. People can't just scroll by something if it's a team they don't like or somebody they don't like or something. Instead of just going by it and not saying anything, some people have to put their 2 cents in worth, and a lot of times it's not productive. There's been several times I'll post something, hey, I need help with this or this, and then somebody makes a funny quip about what I posted or something like that, and I just message back that wasn't helpful. That doesn't, I get a notification somebody's commented on my thing, so I go down there, look, and then it's just somebody just wasting my time basically.
So you can't do enough about the Twitter trolls. It's all the
the
little kids and teenagers out there just trying to be funny.
I'm not talking Twitter specifically. That was just an example I gave. I mean,
well, I was talking about Twitter for the World Cup specifically.
Well,
I get what you're saying.
I'm just saying that just happens in every life. People always got to put their 2 cents in. You can be having a conversation with somebody, and then somebody across the room or somebody overhears it, will start chiming in. And then sometimes I'll look at them and say, "Oh, I didn't know I was talking to you."
Well, that's okay. But basically, just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. Unless it's like illegal or something really weird, then maybe we can comment on it. But like for the most part, people want to watch 0-0 soccer. I had fun watching it. I even made a comment though to Grace and Emma because for a while they were talking about it on the game. It was like a feeling out process from England, and the United States to figure out how to defend in. Well, it was just the United States defenders would run over to the defender. Like the front guys would run over to the defenders of the England guy. They look downfield, and then they just kick it back to the other defender. Then the U.S. guys would run over to that side, and then he would just kick it back. They would just kick the ball back and forth to each other for 3 minutes. I'm like, all right, go down the damn field for one. Jeez, there was a lot of they're like staring at each other.
Trying to tire him out.
The commentator was like, they're staring down for a big boxing fight right now. They just keep kicking it back and forth and feeling each other out.
Well, I think if I was home and not working, I probably would have watched it. I'll watch like the World Cup or big events like that. I'm not going to just go home and watch a random soccer match.
MLS game.
I'm not going to sit down and watch a random soccer match.
Oh, did you see Lionel Messi may be signing with the Miami MLS team?
No.
They said it'd be the biggest contract
I'm not just going to sit down and watch a random soccer match. I mean, I'll watch the World Cup and the big events like that. And I'm that way with a lot of sports where, the bigger happenings or the traditional like the Indy 500. I'll watch that race, but I don't watch open wheel racing much other time the rest of the year, so.
No, yeah. But no, Lionel Messi signing with an MLS team, that's going to be a big signing for Major League Soccer.
No, definitely.
Close the deal to joining Inter Miami next season.
That'll be a big draw and help attendance a ton.
Oh, 100%. So that'll be exciting if that happens. Mm-hmm. I may have to watch it if he's in there. But the point being, the game was actually kind of fun. I think England dominated the ball the first 15, 20 minutes or so. But the United States got really good transition opportunities. They had a couple chances. They had one goal right off the crossbar. So it was 0-0, but there was still plenty of scoring chances. It was fun enough to watch. Because I think they said they played Iran the first game. They had one corner kick.
Played Wales.
No, England. They played Iran. They had one corner kick. The United States had 7 or 8. Part way through the second. I didn't get to watch most of the second half because I went to go get my check from work. But otherwise, it was fun. And so the United States will be able to make the round of 16 if they beat Iran. They can't tie or lose. They have to beat them. But otherwise, they'll get to the next round.
Well, I think a lot of that, too, is just, having pride in your country and the people that are out there, playing to represent our country. And you always want to see those people win and do well. So,
yeah. I mean, I'll just watch the United States. Plus, it's fun to watch soccer every now and then just to, like you said, root for your country.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't care enough to
I'm a big fan of the Olympics. I like to watch the Olympics and these sports that you don't see all the time. And, there'll be somebody out there wearing the bib of the United States of America. And I have no idea who they are, but I'm going to root them on and cheer for them because of who they're representing and what they're representing. So.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just put that on the phone real quick. All right, well, that's all I had. I had this, but I'm going to save it for a nugget.
Okay.
So, how many nuggets do you have?
I had just the one.
Okay, do you want one of mine?
No.
Okay.
You usually don't have any nuggets, so it's nice that you have a couple of nuggets.
Oh, Green Bay's already down 7-0. That's great.
Focus.
Sorry, the game started. Okay, so are you ready for Fast and Tense's nuggets?
You have everything covered? That's a big list over there. You've gone through everything on there?
This is all Matt Rhule stuff.
Okay.
This is Mike Clevenger. This is the World Cup. We're not doing this, and this is now a nugget.
What's that say?
Fast Intentions.
Oh, and how come the S is colored in?
Because I was going to color in part of it, but I didn't want to have it pop up on the audio.
Oh, and you got a big exclamation point down there.
Yeah, and it said Boston Celtics next to it.
Oh.
Episode number 9.
Oh.
I started doodling because someone was late to record.
Yeah. I hate that when that happens.
Okay. Are you ready for Fast and Tense's nuggets?
Well, yeah. Let's hit the ignition switch.
Well, I will go first with my nuggets because you only have one.
Well, that plus KFC was closed, so you had to get nuggets.
And Popeyes was closed.
And Popeyes.
And Aaron Rodgers just threw an interception. Okay. No, don't flip the game around. No! My phone's about to die anyways. Okay, my first nugget was someone tweeted something about how the Lakers... Oh, God, I don't remember what it is. Hold on, let me look it up. But it's basically someone was tweeting something about the Lakers, and Kyle Kuzma retweeted it, or he replied to it, and he said, He said
Kyle Kuzma used to play for the Lakers and doesn't anymore. He plays for
Washington
Wizards.
Good job. So someone said the Lakers will make the playoffs if Bron and AD are healthy, is what someone tweeted. And then Kyle Kuzma replied to it, and he said we would have repeated if we were healthy when they lost to the Suns in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
Which is true because LeBron was hurt for that series, and then Anthony Davis was playing really well, and then he was hurt. And then that's when they decided, oh, well, this team sucks. Let's trade everyone away for Russell Westbrook. And then that's how it turned out. So I do believe that the Rockets had – not the Rockets. What the hell am I talking about? The Lakers had a very good roster is what I meant to say. That potentially could have won a championship if they just would have stuck it together for a few more years. Make minor changes to it. But instead they decided to trade everything away to get a star because who needs other players when you just have 3 guys that are really good? Well, as it turns out, you do. After Brooklyn, that's how that turned out. So that was my first nugget.
My first nugget is props to Qatar. They're hosting the World Cup, and they scored their first ever goal in World Cup history. So,
do you see they're also the first team to be the first host city to be eliminated first in the World Cup because they lost both their first games?
Well, it's safe to say Qatar doesn't have much of a soccer history. So, but I know there's a lot of controversy about it being held in Qatar, and a lot of people died when they were building the facilities, and how they pushed them to, keep going and disregard their human rights. But we don't agree with any of that. But we're focused on the sporting side of things, and so just a props to the Qatar soccer team for scoring their first ever goal.
Yeah, and being the first one eliminated. Okay, well, mine. All right, sorry. I should just turn this game off already.
Yes,
it's 14-0 already.
Very good.
God, Green Bay sucks. My second nugget was, did you see Brian Robinson?
I do agree with you on that point.
Oh, fuck you.
Speaking of that, who did you pick to win that division?
Green Bay.
Oh, okay. How's that going for you?
Didn't you pick Green Bay to be in the wild card?
Yes.
You did. So it's not a big deal. No one thought Green Bay was going to be 4-8. You told me you thought Green Bay was going to be 4-8.
No, I thought it'd be like 2-10.
Bullshit. No one thought that.
I know.
No one thought Aaron Rodgers played so bad. No one thought the defense would be so bad. No one thought Matt LaFleur is a dumbass and doesn't call plays correctly.
You thought that.
Jesus. That's a big mess. But
is that your second nugget?
But they're just going to stick with Aaron Rodgers for as long as he wants to be there. No.
Well, sure.
Did you see Brian Robinson after the game, after they beat the Falcons today?
No, I was probably on my way home.
Well, there was a reporter tweeted a photo of Brian Robinson, and he had a giant hat on. It was like a commander's hat, but it was like huge. Like it was a big hat. And then someone had asked him, and he said he has a friend that has a big hat company, and to let him know if you wanted to have a big hat as well. It was like a backwards commander's hat, but it was like huge. It was like huge on his head. Well, it was just a gigantic hat, and that tweet's been going around. Why Brian Robinson has a giant hat on his head.
Well, give us some connotation here. What's the size reference? I mean, is it like a big hat, or is it like an oversized thing, like where it's comically oversized?
No, it's like comically oversized. Let me get a.
Because your reference point for a big hat, can be several things. Well, that I would say it's probably 4 times the regular size of a baseball cap, and he's got it on backwards. Yeah, that's what I said. It's about 4 times the size of a regular baseball cap.
So it has 73,000 likes currently, and it said literally the tweet says Brian Robinson said his friend has a quote big hat company, and quote if you want a big hat, let me know unquote.
Well, why don't you tweet that out on the Fast Intentions page?
I will.
But I, for one, will not be buying a big hat.
You don't want a big hat?
Sorry to your friend, Brian, but he's not getting my business.
Okay. That was my second nugget.
All right. My second and final one is Dayton Moore, president of baseball operations for the Royals, who was recently let go, has been hired as a baseball advisor with the Texas Rangers. So props to Dayton. That's good for him. He's a good baseball man. He's a good man. He's a religious man. And it's nice to see that even though the Royals decided to move in another direction, that he got a job fairly quickly again in baseball. And hopefully he'll do well there and help the Rangers advance in their baseball. So props to Dayton. Good luck there. Your next nugget?
Sorry, I'm on Backers Twitter. My third nugget. Where is it? Oh, Odell Beckham Jr. had an incident on a plane.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
So apparently, according to
His lawyer.
the plane staff first.
Oh, okay.
Was that he looked like ill, like really ill, and that he was going in and out of consciousness, and they were trying to like wake him up so he could put his seatbelt on, but he wasn't like responding, and so they told him like they thought it was like an emergency, so they were trying to tell him he had to get off the plane, and he said no, he didn't want to get off the plane. Like the flight was delayed, and then they were asking him, and he said no, and then police had to escort him out, and he agreed to leave with them. But then, according to his attorney, Odell Beckham was just tired, and he was like falling in and out of sleep, and so when they were asking him to put his seatbelt on, he was like asleep, so he didn't hear anything.
Yeah, I saw that, and I believe the statement to build on what you were saying, the statement was that he was asleep, and he like put his blanket over his head and kind of shield the light. And they apparently didn't realize he'd fell asleep, and then they woke him up, and he was kind of bewildered a little bit, because when you first wake up, sometimes you're kind of out of it. And they said they were going to remove him from the plane because he didn't have a seatbelt on, and they said he would put his seatbelt on then, but apparently that wasn't good enough for the flight attendant. And according to his attorney, wanted to show how tough he was by getting Odell Beckham Jr. removed from the plane, and so then.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and so since Odell didn't want to get off, that he called security to show how tough he was and have Odell removed from the plane. Oh. And that's paraphrasing what his attorney put a statement out. That's paraphrasing kind of what he said, but so we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know.
That's the last thing he needs, a controversy before he's signed.
And I'm sure they'll interview the flight crew and other passengers on the plane, and they were put out because of this incident. Whether Odell was at fault or not, their flight got delayed, and I know from personal experience when I flew last time here ago that, I had a plane delayed, and my layover was going to be an hour in Charlotte Airport, and then I was supposed to get in a half hour later than I was supposed to. So I was pretty disheveled thinking about landing and having to get off that plane and try to get to another gate and get on another plane in a half hour. And luckily things worked out for me, but so.
Half an hour is still a decent amount of time.
Well, if you're in an unfamiliar airport and you're not sure, what terminal you're going to come into and how far the other terminal is and the gates and what have you.
Well, luckily they're nice to tell you, your terminal's this far away.
Well, they try to.
There's a lot of fucking signs everywhere.
Yes.
Okay, and then my last nugget was the Sean Taylor Memorial they revealed at the Commander Stadium. So a lot of people kind of peeved about it because they kind of made like this big thing that they were going to reveal. And basically it was just like one of those wire statues where they have it like displayed up. Like it just had the helmet, and then it was like in a glass like.
It was like a cylindrical case.
So yeah, it was like a glass cylinder. Yeah. And it just had like a wire like uniform.
Basically had his jersey that he would have wore on display.
Yeah, so basically people were just kind of
underwhelmed.
Yes, because they expected something bigger, like a statue or something. And so people just kind of peeved about it. Which, I mean, the man was tragically murdered, 17 years ago now? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I can understand why people would be kind of upset about it. So,
sure.
That's it. So.
All right, well, glad to be back in Omaha. Had a good Thanksgiving. It was nice to spend some time with you on Thanksgiving.
Oh, thanks, bud.
And I enjoyed hanging out today with you and our buds, watching some football. And
you know what I'm thankful for?
What?
Our Fast Intentions listeners.
Yeah, those are great.
For coming in and tuning in every episode.
And I'm thankful for our subscribers.
Yeah.
Who we need more of.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of subscribers, Nathan, do we have the winner of the koozie, the Fast Intentions koozie? Do we know that person?
Well,
Drum roll.
Well, it came down to one out of...
We spare no expense for sound quality here.
1 out of 2 people.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, I got to find it. But yeah, while I'm finding this, you can always remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Or if you are watching this on or listening to us on Spotify, make sure to like the podcast and rate us 5 stars.
And review.
Yeah.
And please refer this pod, if you like it, to somebody. As we always say, that's the way we grow and can be visible to more people, is by more subscribers and more shares, and the more 5-star ratings get, the better it helps us. And So if you listen but haven't subscribed or rate us, we would wish you would take a moment and do that, and we'd be thankful for that and very appreciative. And I think what's our Twitter page is F Intentions Pod.
At F Intentions.
At F Intentions Pod. And I think this week's koozie contest, or this next 2 weeks koozie contest is tweet at us on that page and tell us what your favorite Thanksgiving food is and why. And we'll pick a random winner out of those submissions and announce it on this podcast, which will be episode 10, our first in double digits.
All right. Well, there's someone subscribed on YouTube, but I don't have any information about him, so I'm going to give it to our one subscriber we got on Twitter.
Okay.
That was my man, Matt. I shouted him out before. Matt Stovey.
Well, congratulations, Matt, and thank you for listening.
We sat together in calculus together.
Nice.
So I'll give it to my man.
Well, it adds up that he would get the koozie. Ba-dumpa.
What's the antiderivative of fast intentions?
I don't know what that means.
Fast Intentions podcast.
Slow something?
Yeah, so I'll give it to my man, Matt.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I got him on Snapchat. I'll figure out how to send him his Fast Intentions.
And if you're the 21st subscriber, reach out to us, and maybe we'll get you a koozie, too.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Green Bay scored, too.
Nice.
14-7. It's only been like 6 minutes.
That's good.
So, yeah.
Your demeanor has changed drastically with that touchdown.
I mean, we're not going to win, but,
Well, you never know.
It'd be better if Green Bay had a direction they were going. Now it's all up in the air because of shitty this year.
On a side note, before we sign off, we got a lot of, I work for the post office, and we have a lot of packages, and we work late, and we're short help. So if you think about it, leave your porch lights on late at night, because we're coming in the dark. The weather's getting a little bit worse. It's getting cold. The precipitation is going to start coming in. So we're very appreciative of people that leave their porch lights on and what have you. So just take that little bit of information and please put it to use. We very much appreciate it. And
a nice plug for the post office there.
Yeah.
Also, if you work in fast food, when you get to speaker, just know your order. That would help us a lot. Do you have any feedback from people you maybe not directly on the podcast link, but like people said stuff? By the way, I know my dad said I mentioned this a lot already, but I'm sorry. I'm working on the breathing. I am a big guy, and sometimes I breathe kind of heavy, so I'm not aware that I'm doing it, but I am doing it. So I'm trying to be more conscientious of it in the future. It's very good, because I notice it when I'm recording. I go, who's that fat ass breathing? I go, oh, that's me. So it's definitely something I need to be more conscious about, and I'm trying to be. So maybe not. I'm not going to be like eating my mic anymore, but I want to be like close enough so you can hear me. So,
yeah. As far as the comment, it wasn't like anything posted, but our listener Vern, shout out to Vern.
Yeah, shout out Vern.
Just celebrated his 37th wedding anniversary, so congratulations.
When have I been alive?
He listened to the last pod. He said he learned some information they didn't know when we talked about the Kyrie Irving situation. So
Kyrie Irving's also back playing basketball now.
Yeah, it was nice to see that we're giving some information to people that they might not get otherwise. So Good job, Nathan. Our NBA correspondent here at Fast Intentions.
Yeah, Celtics still have the best record in the league too. So at least one of my teams is doing something.
Yeah. So we covered all our bases.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hope, like Matt Rhule, this pod was a grand slam.